season football. We are now in the end game. The conference championship week is this Friday and Saturday upcoming. Welcome to the 2KU Weekly Podcast. I'm Type A Joy 101, joined as always by Danny V and our good friend the Pig Bear for another episode of this series. And what a weekend it was. Rivalry weekend. Plenty of chaos, both in and out of the games. Hope y'all enjoyed your Thanksgiving, your Black Friday. I'm sure everyone here did as well. I'm going to hand it off to Danny as he talks about the notable storylines going into this week.
With Rivalry Week over, it's now Championship Week. Over the weekend, several teams are now championship bound and have claimed a spot to their respective conference championship. Or revolving around that, welcome to the All Chaos Conference. The ACC Championship took a massive detour than what anyone has ever expected. And we'll explain that later once we talk about the conference championship. The Mountain West Conference had themselves a four-way tie between four teams, that being Utah, TCU, Boise State, and Utah State. And they had to go through several steps to find the top two teams, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Next up, Charlotte stole the AAC title after Jacksonville State was upset by Kennesaw State. And finally, the last one to note about, which I'll be handing out to Joey, it is about conference realignment.
Yes, there is some breaking news coming out. There was a report we had seen before about the Big Ten looking for expansion, and they ended up finding it. And boy, was this not what we expected. The Big Ten announcing a return of the Chicago Maroons as a member come 2024. The Maroons are only in their second year of FBS membership this season. It was expected that this move wouldn't happen for another 2 decades at least. But for Chicago to be nabbed up this early and this quickly suggests that the Big Ten was kind of in a hurry to compete with its fellow conferences. Look, the Big 12 expanded, the SEC expanded, the ACC expanded, the Pac-10 is now the Pac-12. The Big East expanded. The Big Ten was the only conference without anything on the horizon. And they managed to scoop up a team that's not really high profile, but certainly fits in a big market and has a lot of historical ties. Also, reports are circling around the Mountain West. Mountain West lost quite a few teams this season. Due to the expansion wheel. We remember that there was a rumor about Colin Payton and Eastern Washington joining together in 2024. That rumor didn't end up being true. Eastern Washington stayed. However, Colin Payton is going back on it and will be joining Mountain West in 2024 alongside San Jose State. The Spartans will be joining WAC members Colin Payton, Nevada, and Fresno State in joining the conference next season. That leaves the WAC open for a potential expansion once again. WAC football is going to be in a very interesting place moving forward. Danny, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first up, to get started with Chicago, that yes, it is true that Chicago did have themselves an automatic bid to the Big Ten if they ever to apply due to their special agreement from way back then. But to see them take it this early, I guess they were just eager to get back in with their old rivals, considering they're one of the few teams that actually have a winning record against Notre Dame and stuff. And for the Mountain West to be picking up these teams, like, they're truly trying to keep their automatic bid locked in, and these are some great picks. San Jose State, one of the best Mountain West teams. Colin Payton has a lot of historical ties with a lot of nearby rivals, and Eastern Washington, a good market. Nevada, Fresno, really good teams. It'll be fun to watch them.
We're going to be completely honest. Chicago's getting pummeled, right?
Yeah.
All right. Good to know.
They're the new Vanderbilt.
Pig Bear, your thoughts?
That might be an understatement. They're the new...
Vanderbilt's beat some teams.
Yeah. They're the new... in 2KU verse, they're the new NC State for the Big Ten.
And NC State's had some winning some winning moments. I think the Vanderbilt comparison is apt, though. It's very much a team that, if they were to have a very good season, it's kind of out of the blue. Like they've had this season. Only their second year. They're making a bowl berth for the first time since rejoining the FBS. They left the Big Ten in the 1950s. They left the Big Ten in 1946. They dropped football in 1939. They reinstated it in the 50s before bringing it all the way back from D3 up to D2 into FCS and now to FBS and now all the way to Big Ten. Not even UCF can claim to have a ladder that fast. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting distracted. Let's talk about the Week 13 scores starting on... Oh, pardon me.
Oh, I was gonna. Alright, sorry.
Continue.
Alright, first off, let's start with moves that make sense. I like this whack transfer to the Mountain West, Nevada, Cullen Payton, and San Jose State. That's it, correct?
Nevada was already there. The move that's new is San Jose State and Cullen Payton.
I mean, yes, Cullen Payton, they're local. They've got in-state rival Boise State in conference. It just makes sense. Move that doesn't make sense. Chicago, come on, give yourself some time to develop. And speaking of winning records against Notre Dame, kind of some crossword comparison here. First week of November, my team clinched a winning record against Notre Dame, but let's get back to 2KU.
Regardless, let's move into our Week 13 scores. Starting on Thanksgiving, Mississippi State and Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl. Always a fun game after you've eaten your turkey. And Mississippi State on the road against a very difficult Ole Miss squad who've put up quite a fight. However, the Bulldogs get the win 38-23, and for the first time in over 55 years, Mississippi State has a 10-win season. They're 10-2, but they would have to wait on other results to decide their fate. Danny?
Yeah, that it is, of course, always going to be a fun matchup, but Mississippi State, they had themselves a great year. I think both these teams had a really great year this year. I'm sure both these teams will be shocked at what happened elsewhere in the SEC as well.
Pig Bear?
Ring those cowbells. Good job, Mississippi State, getting the win. And I mean, now they know. We all know now. But let's continue the storyline here.
We'll keep the storyline silent as we move forward. Now to Friday night, Black Friday. Kent State and Akron playing for a spot in the conference championship game. Eastern Michigan locked themselves with the win over Northern Illinois, so it's a battle to see who wins this. And Kent State really just showed that they are the team with more experience, and for the first time since 2013, Kent State will be fighting for the conference championship. 49-20 the final. The Golden Flashes get the wagon wheel. Danny?
But yeah, it was a really great game between these two. It was really fun, and the game determined the MAC East, and well, here they were, and Kent State got themselves a big win, and they're back in the championship game.
Pig Bear?
You just got a job winning the wagon wheel. Always one of those interesting rivalries to look for. Cool trophy, but you got a good job to Kent State, and we'll see if they can win the MAC.
One of the coolest rivalry trophies, by the way, just a big wagon wheel. I once had a concept for a Big West football championship trophy that was just a wagon wheel with a bunch of teams. Regardless, we now move to our Dave Show game of the week. This had no championship implications, but it'll be the final game Dave Show plays as an independent. Danny?
Yeah, Dave Show, they were coming to this game 5-6, needing the win to get to bowl eligibility. Miami have had themselves a horrible year, so just after a bit of some back and forth and maybe a little fight before the game between these two rivals, Dave Show pulled up the win 44-17 over the Hurricanes, and Dave Show is going bowling as their final game is an independent and them joining the ACC next season.
This will be a rivalry game next year. Thinking about a conference rivalry game next year. There have been talks about flip-flopping the Sunshine Smackdown, or the rivalry, or the Sunshine State rivalry between Florida and Florida State, and Dave Show Florida State, which would put the Dave Show game at the end of the year. Do you think that's likely to go through?
I don't really think so because it has to also depend on Florida and see how would they want it in. Since if they were to swap on that, they wouldn't really have a team to play against on the final week unless they get Miami there. So it's gonna be kind of hard to convincing them, but we have seen crazier. We have to see.
All right. Pigbear, your thoughts on the Dave Show Miami game?
Um, good job, Dave Show, clinching balls, really. But back to this whole flipping the Sunshine State showdown. I'm sure there's gonna be some governor's legislation on this. There's pretty much in every state with a big rivalry. But maybe get a whole governor's cup going between the ACC. Florida State Miami Dave Show in Florida. Get like a whole system where if everyone plays each other,
Like the Beehive booth.
Yeah, like
It's
Beehive
back a
booth,
road.
yeah.
That'd be fun.
Tobacco Road or like the Commander in Chief's trophy. We'll
Yeah.
move on now to the Big East. Actually, before we talk about the game I have here, thoughts on the game last night? A very close defensive battle in the snow as West Virginia and Pittsburgh clashed. As the Mountaineers getting a close-fought win, 14-13. They're going back to East Rutherford for the conference championship game. Danny?
Yeah, both these teams were basically even. That it was really much a coin flip. So I'm sure if the Big East had no divisions, we would have had a backyard brawl rematch. I'm sure of it. But alas, it didn't happen. But it was just a great game, and I'm sure Pitt fans are just kicking themselves in the back about losing that game.
Pig Bear?
Country roads take me home to the place. Good job, West Virginia. What a hard-fought game on both sides. That play that got overturned, if that doesn't go the way, that one is actually, they maybe get a chance to get the ball back because they had all 3 timeouts.
That's right.
Yeah, so maybe it would have benefited Pitt if that fumble would have actually happened. Well, got overturned.
It probably would have. West Virginia now moving on to the Big East championship game. They've had plenty of success and plenty of appearances in that game. This will be if they win it, this will be their 10th Big East championship. They haven't won it, though, since 2020. Now moving on to the other side of the conference, Boston College locks up the Big East North Division with a 38-5 win over Syracuse. Danny?
Domination. It was just a dominant performance by BC, and BC's now looking for some revenge against West Virginia, and let's see if they can get it as their final conference game in the Big East before they move on to the ACC.
Boston College's only loss in conference was to West Virginia. Pig Bear?
Yeah, Boston College. One thing I will say about their move, even though West Virginia's got a lot of rivals, or more rivals than Boston College in the Big East, I think West Virginia to the ACC would make more sense than Boston College to the ACC here. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
I would just say you don't want to divorce West Virginia and Pitt.
Yeah.
After what a good backyard brawl we had, how could you?
I know.
Anyway, let's take a step off that to the Big Ten race. Coming down to the last few games, 2 classic rivalries. The game starts us off as Michigan getting a dominant win, 34-13 in Columbus over Ohio State. This put the Wolverines at 9-3 and set them up for a potential shot to take the Big Ten. However, they needed other results to go their way, namely a game in Madison. Wisconsin was number 12 in the country, seeking a 10-win season for the first time since 2010. They'll be taking on Minnesota. A Minnesota team desperately hungry for a big upset win, and they were playing their hearts out up there in Madison. It was a close game to the end, going to overtime. Wisconsin getting a 33-30 win. The number 12 Badgers now lock themselves up for a trip to the Big Ten championship game for the first time in school history. Danny, your thoughts on these 2 games?
Chop, 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 chop. let's go Badgers for winning the Axe. It's a great game, and let's face it, a really close game. So if Minnesota was at least ranked a bit higher, I think that could have been a potential 2KU spot, but unfortunately, Minnesota didn't live up to their own expectations.
Pig Bear?
Jump around, jump around. Sorry for being cheesy here.
Jump up,
Yes, good
and
job,
get down.
Wisconsin. Get down. Yeah, I forgot lyrics for that song. I can't sing right now.
You know, the last team to win the Axe and win the Rose Bowl in the same season, that was Minnesota in 2000. Last time Wisconsin won the Rose Bowl was in 1987, the longest drought between any team in the Big Ten. They'll likely play in it regardless, because if Penn State wins, they're going to the national championship, no doubt. Wisconsin wins, unless they choose the team who didn't win the conference, they would go to the Rose Bowl anyway. So it's kind of a weird situation there. Speaking of weird situations, overtime in Charlottesville, Virginia, going into this 4 weeks ago, had less than 5% of odds to make the ACC Championship. Virginia Tech sit at over 50. VT was favored heavily in this one as the number 1 team in the nation, but it was number 25 Virginia in overtime, 30-26, who steals a spot in the conference championship away from them. And it's going to be the weirdest situation we've ever seen. Virginia Tech, 11-1, an incredible season, one of the most dominant defensive performances we've seen all year. They'll probably be the greatest team in BCS history to not play in the conference championship. They're the first team in the BCS era with 11 wins or more to not make the championship game. Danny?
Yeah, that was just a pure shocker, and I don't think anyone expected Virginia Tech to lose this game against Virginia. I'm sure everyone in Blacksburg was already buying their tickets to Charlotte, and here they are losing by 4 points on the road. I'm sure Virginia fans stormed the field right after that game, but it was a great game, and good job for the Cavaliers for making it.
Pig Bear?
The Wahoo's getting it done. And again, TV contract started preseason. This game should have been on like national television. It should not just been on the ACC network. But I mean, do a good job to Virginia. Have fun in Charlotte.
Virginia and Duke will be facing off for the first time in the ACC Championship. Virginia's last conference championship came in the 2006 title game when they won the Natty. Duke's last was in 1972. It's the longest drought of any ACC school. We move now to the SEC, where we saw Mississippi State waiting with bated breath. Tulane managed to pick up a win. That eliminated the Bulldogs from contention. Tulane's win was on the road against LSU, 27-24. But now it was Auburn waiting on this game. Now it was Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Tulane on the sidelines waiting to see what would happen. With a loss by Auburn, Tulane would slip in. And Alabama is ineligible. The Crimson Tide played extremely well in this one. Coming down to the last seconds, Bama stealing a win at home against Auburn. The Crimson Tide managed a 9-3 campaign on the year, 6-2 overall, or 6-2 in conference. But it's Tulane on tiebreakers who manages a spot in the conference championship game. Danny?
Yeah, Alabama fans are just so mad about last year's bowl game that if that didn't happen, if they didn't try to get all greedy, they could have been in Atlanta right now playing against Florida. That would have been a big headline matchup, but here they are sitting in the sidelines, not even going to a bowl game. Shame.
Pig Bear?
So Alabama wins. And the Tulane Mighty Green Whale are going to Atlanta. Wow. Who would have predicted that? They've been Virginia. It'd be cool seeing a bowl matchup, like both teams win. Like seeing them play like the. Well, Virginia would go the orange, correct?
Yes.
and then
I mean,
Tulane would
listen,
go to the Peach or Sugar.
Tulane would go back home to play the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, so there's no chance Tulane goes to a BCS if they lose the SEC championship, correct?
No.
Oh.
Mississippi State could. They do have 10 wins.
But who knows? Roll wave. And
it is
roll tide.
the Orange Bowl this year is between the ACC champion and the Big East champion. That's could be if Tulane can get it.
There'll
Or
likely
the
be 2 Big East
Big
teams
East.
making it since both Boston College and West Virginia have 10 wins.
Hmm.
But now we move on back to the ACC with an ACC-SEC matchup. Florida already locked up their division, and they lock up another win over Florida State, 20-17, to cement an 11-1 campaign, their first since 2021. Don't remind them how their last 11-1 campaign went. Danny?
Yeah, it was a great win for Florida, and I'm sure they were looking probably ahead to see if they were going to rematch against Auburn, play against a shockingly good Mississippi State team, or Tulane. And Florida State nearly got the jump on them. It was just bad, but that's the end of Florida State's season, and now Florida is going on to Atlanta.
Big Bear?
Seminoles can't get it done, just like real life where the Gators can't get it done. But just a good job for Florida getting it done and go on to Atlanta.
Now there's an extremely interesting situation in the Mountain West. TCU locked up a spot with a win over Boise last week. Boise State won on Friday at New Mexico, which finishes them with a 10-2 season and 6-2 in conference, their other loss being to BYU. TCU's last game was out of conference against Baylor. They won that to end up 10-2 as well. Their 2 losses came to Utah and San Diego State. Now Utah is sitting up there as well. Utah entered with a 10-1 record at home against BYU in the Holy War. The final matchup, both these teams will be in conference for BYU to the Big 12, Utah to the Pac-12. The Cougars, sorry about that. The Cougars were already knocked out of contention, but they could play spoiler, and play spoiler they did. 32-28 the final. The BYU squad beating Utah, which puts Utah at 10-2. That means that Utah, TCU, Boise State, and Utah State, who ended their season with a win at home against Air Force, that means all 4 of them have the same conference record, and we'd have to go to tiebreakers. Now, Utah State's eliminated off the bat since they had one less win than everybody else. They ended the season 9-3 compared to all the other teams 10-2. TCU is already locked in, and now it's between Utah and Boise for the first spot. Danny, how did that break down?
Yeah, it was a little bit more complicated. All of them had the same conference records, but we decided to go with, first off, how did they all perform against each other? TCU had the most wins. They went 3-1 against all the other teams, so therefore they were an automatic locked-in. Utah State only had 1 win against all 3 of them, so they were knocked out. So it was just between Utah and Boise State, and it was really, really close. We then went to how did they perform against all the other teams and similarly ranked teams. They all had very even performances. So then we went into both rankings into results on the field. And there was one thing interesting to note. Boise State lost to TCU. Utah beat TCU. That small little factor, and Utah just barely edging Boise State in the rankings allowed the Utes to get in over the national champion winning Broncos.
Now, what you're saying is with that game, Boise State missed out on the Mountain West Championship by a yard.
Yes, they were out of Denver by a yard.
Unbelievable. The one thing we didn't have there was a coin. We don't need no coins here. Pig Bear?
Trust me, that was the next one up. If everything else went to bizarre.
The
That
coin
was-
makes its return.
We'd have to stream you flipping the coin.
Yeah. I'd be there for it.
Uh,
No,
Pi-
I put a lineup for it, 50-50. But no, 1 yard, 3 feet, preventing a team from going to conference championship game. It's shocking.
yeah. Utah and TCU will face off for the Mountain West Championship, as we'll talk about later. How about Cal? California beating Stanford, who is number 24, 30-27. That means that Cal has now won 5 straight to end the season. That includes Arizona State, USC, and Stanford. A 5-game winning streak to end the year when you started 1-6. Danny?
Yeah, what a bizarre turnaround for Cal. They started off the season 1-6, and here they are knocking off 5 straight. That's incredible, and I don't think anyone expected that, especially against Stanford, who, reminder this, just a few weeks ago, they were right within the top 4, right? So
Correct.
just to see them knock this off, it's crazy. And for Stanford, talk about the reverse. Started
Stanford
out the
lost
season
4 of their last 5 after
They
having
started the season
won
7 and
straight.
0. They started the season 7-0 with wins against Michigan, Notre Dame, UCLA, Washington, and then they ran into Oregon, and then was just a downhill spiral from there.
This will be the first time we don't see Stanford in the rankings since 2020. The Stanford Cardinal finish the season at 8-4, 5-4. Cal leapfrogs them in terms of record in conference. They have a 6-3 conference record compared to Stanford's 5-4.
Technically, Arizona State would also jump them due to tiebreakers.
As Stanford will likely be the team selected for the next eligible bowl slot coming in.
Yeah.
And now we move out to the West Coast, where Pacific had already clinched their first bowl berth in decades. That was last week against Fresno State. As for Hawaii, they were playing for something a bit more. They're playing to win the division. Fresno State lost. San Jose State won. They beat the Bulldogs. And Hawaii beat Pacific 19-16. That's the final there. On tiebreakers, since Hawaii beat San Jose State, the 8-4 Rainbow Warriors leapfrog them and are going back to the WAC championship game. Danny?
Yeah, Hawaii got themselves a great win, and here they are clinching a little spot in. Don't look too down, Pacific. You're still going bowling, so they're still on one of their best seasons in a while.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, good job with Pacific Beach Tigers overall, but Hawaii getting leapfrog, and San Jose State, they're moving the WAC. They're moving from the WAC to the Mountain West, but just probably a bad way to go out. You wish to go out on top, but you just go out middle of the pack. Well, upper middle, but still.
The WAC championship will be between 2 teams staying in the WAC, New Mexico State and Hawaii. All right, now we're going to look at our top 25. The final one before the conference championship season. The final one where all the teams would have played the same week. And now we obviously begin with a new number 1. New number 1, same as the old. Oklahoma State returns to number 1 after Virginia Tech's loss. Following them at number 2 is now Penn State. At number 3 is Oregon. Number 4, Florida. And number 5, Virginia Tech. All 5 of these teams, as well as number 6, which we'll get to in a second, could make the national championship. Oklahoma State is pretty easy winning in. Penn State is the same. Oregon, Florida are going to need some help to get there. Hell, Virginia Tech could make it if things align. And look out, number 6, UCF could make it. The UCF Knights are a very interesting case. They're 11-0. They got a win over USF on Friday. They're now undefeated in the regular season. They could win against SMU this week, make a BCS game, win it, and if a one-loss team wins the national championship and they stay undefeated, they would make themselves a co-national champion. This has only happened once in the BCS era. That was with Marshall back in 2002. It almost happened in 2021 with Northern Illinois, but Stanford beat a one-loss Baylor. Regardless, moving on, Boston College is now number 7, followed by number 8, Wisconsin, into the top 10. Number 9 is TCU, and number 10 is Baylor. Here at number 11, we have Michigan. Number 12 is Duke, who made the ACC Championship. Number 13, Utah. Number 14 is Boise State. And number 15 is West Virginia. And number 16, Washington State. Number 17, Clemson. Number 18, New Mexico State. Number 19, leapfrogging all the way into the top 25 is Tulane. And number 20 is Virginia. And number 21, we have Pittsburgh. Number 22, Mississippi State, the lowest ranked 10-win team. They'll likely jump in the next week. Number 23 is Kansas, back in the top 25. Number 24, SMU, returning to the top 25. And also returning to the top 25 is 11-1 Appalachian State. Other teams receiving votes: BYU, Stanford, FAU, Alabama, Hawaii, Utah State, Georgia Tech, Southern Illinois, Coastal Carolina, Georgia, Auburn, Jacksonville State, Louisville, San Jose State, and UTSA. Any takeaways from this top 25, Danny?
Yeah, it's going to be a little interesting week, especially within those top 10 teams, to see who can make it into the BCS Championship and the BCS Bowls. And trust me, I tell you this, coming from a school that recently, a few years ago, went undefeated and decided to claim national champions, I'm sure maybe the Knights might still claim something even if there's another undefeated team, but who knows?
It's only officially recognized if you're the only undefeated team remaining. As for teams who could make BCS Bowls, they're on the outside. Of course, you have UCF, you have your Mountain West team, you have your Big East team. Looking lower on the rankings, you could see a New Mexico State or an Appalachian State sneaking in. New Mexico State, of course, made it twice before in 2019 and 2021. App State will be making their first appearance in a BCS Bowl if they were to win. If they were to win and make their way in. The SoCon hasn't seen a team make the BCS Bowl since 2004 with Georgia Southern. Pig Bear, your takeaways on this top 25?
Very interesting top 25 here. Now, can all heck break loose and Von Tech still make the natty? That's the real thing they should be asking in Blacksburg right now. But who knows?
It is possible. It would be the first time in NCAA history, or 2KU history, that a team who didn't win their conference would win the national championship. Or play for the national championship, for that matter. It's possible, but they would need a USC level of help to make it there. Remember last year, USC saw all of the top 4 lose their conference championships. That included an Oklahoma State team who was number 1. It's going to be a very interesting route. I'm going to hand it off to Danny, where he's going to talk about all of the teams who could make it to bowls if they land an at-large bid. Take it away.
Yeah. I also do have the list of all the teams who are going bowling as well, so I'll just start bracketing off it based on conference, and then I'll explain a little bit more about the bowl selection process for those outside in case there are, which I will explain. At the ACC, we have 5 teams going. We have Duke, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. In the American, we have 4 teams: Charlotte, Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky, and Kennesaw. In the Big East, you have Boston College, West Virginia, Pitt, Syracuse, UMass, UConn, and Rutgers. The Big Ten having tied for the most teams at 9. They have Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Purdue, Michigan State, Iowa, and Indiana. We have the Big 12 with Oklahoma State, Baylor, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Nebraska, and Colorado. In the CUSA, we have 8 teams going with UCF, SMU, Houston, Louisville, Liberty, Cincinnati, Arkansas, and UAB. We have 3 independent teams going: Army, Colgate, and Dave Show. Then the Ivy League, we have our 3 teams in. We have Columbia, Princeton, and Harvard. And welcome to the group Princeton. We have in our MAC, we have Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Akron, Northern Illinois, Buffalo, Toledo, Central Michigan, and Western Michigan. In the Missouri Valley, we have 5 teams going. We have Southern Illinois, South Dakota State, Northern Iowa, Chicago, and North Dakota State. In the Mountain West, we have 8 teams going. We have Utah, TCU, Boise State, BYU, Utah State, New Mexico, San Diego State, and UNLV. In the Pac-10, we have 7 teams: Oregon, Washington State, Stanford, Arizona State, UCLA, USC, and Cal. In the SEC, we got Florida, Tulane, Mississippi State, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Welcome to the group Commodores. In the SoCon, we have App State, Old Dominion, James Madison, William & Mary, Georgia Southern, and Furman. In the Southland, we have Sam Houston, Stephen of Austin, Southeastern Louisiana, Abilene Christian, Hardin Simmons, and McNeese. In the Sunbelt, we have FAU, Troy, Coastal Carolina, North Texas, Arkansas State, and South Alabama. And finally, the WAC, who is also the other team who is tied for the most amount of bowl-eligible teams. It is at also 9 at New Mexico State, Hawaii, UTSA, Texas State, San Jose State, Fresno State, Idaho, Cal State Fullerton, and Pacific. Now, for those who have been keeping track at home, we have 108 teams who have clinched the spot. There are 118 teams left, 118 team spots. So we go down to the 5 and 7 teams, where we're gonna base it off the best 5 and 7 teams, not based on academics or anything like that.
Ha.
All based on their performance on the field. In the ACC, there's 2 5 and 7 teams: Maryland and North Carolina. No teams in the American who are 5 and 7, as all those FCS transition teams are already at 7, so they already got in. In the Big East, there's only 1 with Temple. In the Big 10, there's 2 with Illinois and Minnesota.
Minnesota. Continue.
Yep. In the Big 12, we have 3 with Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. There are no teams in the Conference USA. In the Independents, we have Holy Cross at 5 and 7. A little special thing is that the Ivy League does have another team who is at 5 and 7, which is Yale. So they have a little asterisk mark. In the MAC, we have Marshall. Yeah, just Marshall, the Thundering Herds. In the Missouri Valley, we have 4 teams, the most out of any other conferences, with 5 and 7 teams. We have Drake, Indiana State, South Dakota, and newcomer Southern Utah. There's no teams in the Pac-10, South, SEC, or SoCon. In the Southland, we have 3: Central Arkansas, Northwestern State, and West Texas A&M. In the Sunbelt, it's just Louisiana. In the WAC, we have UTEP and Nevada. All teams at 5 and 7. Currently, the committee is currently discussing about which of the 5 and 7 teams is worthy enough to claim the last 10 spots.
Don't forget to tune in 2 weeks from now on our 2KU weekly show for week 15 on December 10th, where we'll be revealing our bowl season. I'll be revealing our bowl season for you. All right, now we're gonna head out of Division 1, go a step down, and then another step down to Division 2. Last week we were talking about the Division 3 playoffs. Yeah, you can check out the scores for those on the 2KU Discord. Type of Joy 101 Discord linked on the channel's About page. Now we're going to take a look at the Division 2 playoffs. D2 is a bit like D3, but only made up of 4 regions. There are 16 conferences. There are 15 conferences. Every region has 4, except for the West, which has 3 that will change next season with some rumbling moves on the other levels. But now we begin with the We begin with the East region. With the number 1 seed, the New Haven Chargers at 11-0 will be taking on, I don't know how you want me to say this, the Slippery Rock, The Rock, who are 9-3. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Also in West Haven, the Bloomsburg Huskies take on the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls.
Yay, J.C. Smith!
The 3 seed in the group is Notre Dame of Ohio. The Falcons are 10-1, taking on the 9-2 Clarion Golden Eagles. The region is taking place in Institute, West Virginia, as the number 2 West Virginia State Yellow Jackets take on the Fairmont State Falcons. And to the South region, the Valdosta State Blazers are the number 1 team overall and the number 1 team in the region at 11-0. Their following game will be against Lenore Rhine. The Bears are 8-3. The Morehouse Maroon Tigers out of the SIAC are 9-2. And for all you not the expert fans, we do have another fictional university to talk about. The Rocket City Moonmen of Huntsville, Alabama make the Division II playoffs at 10-1. They are the 5 seed in the group. The number 3 Carson Newman Eagles are 9-2. They take on the Southeastern Oklahoma State Savage Storm, who are 9-2. And then the second bracket host, the Arkansas Monticello Bull Weevils, the reigning national champions, are 10-1. They take on the West Georgia Wolves, who are 9-2, and in their final season as D2 members, as they'll be joining Division I in 2024. Onto the Midwest group, led by the Pittsburgh State Gorillas, one of the favorites to take home the national champions. They're 11-0. They take on the Truman State Bulldogs to start their year. The 4th seed in Pittsburgh are the Tiffin Dragons. Pittsburgh, Kansas, not Pennsylvania. The Tiffin Dragons will be taking on the Missouri Western Griffins. In Aberdeen, South Dakota, the Missouri S&T Miners take on the Northwood Timberwolves. And the Northern State Wolves, who are number 2 in the region, take on the Walsh Cavaliers. Into the West group, our final group here, the seed host in Golden, Colorado, the Colorado Mines Ore Diggers are 11-0, taking on the Texas Permian Basin Falcons. The 2021 national champions who played in the championship game in 2022, if y'all know Travis Heller, this is the school he went to before here, the Black Hill State Yellow Jackets are 10-1 this season. They take on the Eastern New Mexico Greyhounds. And our final region takes us to Kingsville, Texas, as the 3 seed Western Oregon Wolves take on the Chadron State Eagles, and the Texas A&M Kingsville Javelinas at 11-1 take on the 9-2 Simon Fraser Clan. Looking at the groups, the favorites to make the national championship game from each group are New Haven, Valdosta State, Pittsburgh State, and Texas A&M Kingsville. Who do you guys like in the national championship out of this squad, Danny?
That's going to be a little bit tough. For me, I'm going to need to say out of each group or just in general?
Just out of the field, who do you like?
And give me Salve Regina, the Seahawks.
Oh, that's D3. You're on the D3 sheet.
Wait, oops. No, this D2.
That's from D3. The ones on the left are.
Oh wait, whoops. Sorry about that, everyone. But for me, give me Pittsburgh State. Give me that gorilla with the red and yellow face logo.
If you were on the server, you know we were posting that all of yesterday. A good time was had by all. Pig Bear, who do you like Who do you like out of this field?
Call me a homer and a dark horse. Johnson C. Smith.
The Golden Bulls out of Charlotte. Interesting. I like the Rocket City Moonmen to potentially be an underdog run in the South Group. Don't write off the reigning champs in Arkansas Monticello or in Black Hill State. I think my favorite team out of this group overall, though, I actually like. You picked HBCU to be your underdog. I like a different one. Give me West Virginia State to make a big run.
Yeah.
All right, now moving on from that, we now get to talk about our matchups, and this is going to take some time because we got a lot to break down. with our conference championship games. Starting with our first game here, I'm still debating whether or not I want to move this game up to Thursday. I may have some scheduling issues, so I'll keep you posted on that. But either Thursday or Friday, we'll have the SoCon Championship. Our first game here, the number 25 Appalachian State Mountaineers are 11-1 and 7-1 in conference play. They take on Old Dominion, who is 10-2 and 7-1. Game is in Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Appalachian State are 4.5-point favorites. This is their final appearance in the SoCon Championship. They've played in the championship game 6 times, all in a row from 2016 to 2021. They're 3-3 in those games. They've won 14 SoCon titles, the most in the conference's history. As for Old Dominion, this is their first time appearing in the conference championship. App State favored by 4.5. I like the Mountaineers to improve to 12-1. Who do you have, Danny?
Give me the Mountaineers. I believe App State will win it, and I believe they remain ranked.
Pig Bear?
Give me App State winning big, plus points.
All right. Now we move to Friday. For a concrete Friday game, a ranked matchup between number 24 SMU, 10-2 and 7-1, and number 6 UCF, undefeated, 12-0 overall, 8-0 in conference. Game at Protective Stadium in Birmingham, Alabama. UCF, the reigning Conference USA champions. They won the Conference USA twice in their history, in 2018 and last year. SMU, seeking their 5th title all-time, would be the most in CUSA history, and it will be their first since 2016. Both teams played in Week 12 at SMU, UCF getting the win 28-10, and this will be the final time these two teams play each other for the Conference USA. UCF goes to the Big East and SMU to the Pac-12 in 2024. The Knights are favored by 6 in this game. I like UCF to remain unbeaten and lock up a BCS berth. Danny?
Give me the Knights. I believe the Knights will win this game, and I believe the Knights will win this game big.
Pig Bear?
Give me the Knights 2 to win. I think UCF wins.
All right, now Friday Night Lights, the final Pac-10 championship. Don't worry, we're not getting rid of the conference. It'll just be the Pac-12 next season. And it'll be the only time with divisions. Yeah. The only time we don't have divisions, as Washington State, 10-2 and 8-1 in conference play, takes on number 3 Oregon, who's 11-1 and is yet to lose in their 9 games in conference. The number 15 Cougars are 4.5-point underdogs as Vegas favors Oregon, who is looking for their 13th Pac-10 title. It would be their first since 2020. The Ducks are 5-1 in the Pac-10 championship game. Washington State, on the other hand, has never played in it. This will be their first appearance in the Pac-10 title game. They haven't won the Pac-10 since 1997. These two played in Week 5, Oregon getting a win 45-29. Interesting that Vegas only favors Oregon by 4.5, though I do like the Ducks to win the Pac-10 championship. Danny?
Give me the Ducks to win. I believe the Ducks will be quacking all over them and trying to fly their way into a BCS championship.
Pig Bear?
Quack, 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 go Oregon. Oregon wins.
All right, we now move to our Saturday slate. Starting with the Big East Championship. Number 7 Boston College against number 15 West Virginia. Both teams 10-2 and undefeated in conference play. That's incorrect. Boston College is 8-1 in conference play. West Virginia is 9-0. The odds are even in this one, interestingly. West Virginia looking to increase their record in the Big East by winning their 10th Big East title. Their last one came in 2020. Boston College is in their final Big East season. They won their last Big East title, and right now their only Big East title in 1995. Both teams played in the very first Big East championship in 2013. West Virginia won that game 27-10. Both these teams played back in Week 11 in Boston. In Chestnut Hill, West Virginia won 38-20. I actually like West Virginia in an upset to steal it from Boston College. Danny?
Give me Boston College to win this one. I believe they get revenge, and I believe the Eagles will beat the Mountaineers. But I think it's going to be a close match. Really close.
Pig Bear?
The Mountaineers roll on and win the Big East. Go West Virginia. Sorry.
Wrong Mountaineers. Meanwhile, in the MAC championship from Detroit, Michigan, Kent State at 9-3 and 6-2 takes on Eastern Michigan, 8-4 and 7-1. Kent State's last MAC title was in 2013. They're 1-3 all time in the MAC championship. Meanwhile, Eastern Michigan made only one appearance in 1999 in the MAC title. That was when they last won the MAC championship. Kent State, this one doesn't have a line. I believe Kent State would be favored in this. Danny, who do you have?
Give me Kent State to win this one. I believe it's time for them to finally dust off the trophy case and get themselves a trophy inside.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Kent State winning.
I think Kent State would be favored, but I like Eastern Michigan in an upset. We had an upset last season. Remember Ohio stealing it away from the Central Michigan Chippewas. I feel like the state of Michigan is looking for revenge on that. And I'm sure our thumbnails remember that. I'm sure our thumbnails and our slideshows remember that Ohio win.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. All right, now to the Missouri Valley Championship, which also doesn't have a line. South Dakota State at 9-3 and 6-2 takes on Southern Illinois, who's 10-2 and 7-1. Southern Illinois would be winning their 11th conference title if they get the win there. It would tie Drake for the most by a current Missouri Valley member. Meanwhile, South Dakota State is on the opposite end. They've never won the Missouri Valley. They last appeared in the 2018 Missouri Valley Conference title game. Back in Week 11, these two teams played in Brookings, South Dakota. SIU won 41-13. It would only be the second time in the last 3 years that the Missouri Valley team had at least 11 wins. I believe Southern Illinois would end up being favored in this one. Danny, who do you have?
Give me Southern Illinois to win this one. I believe they will make this one close, and I believe they will beat the Jackrabbits.
Pig Bear?
Give me Southern Illinois again winning here.
All right. Looking for a Missouri Valley 12-win season. Last time they did that was Southern Illinois back in 2013. All right, the Big 12 Championship. Probably game of the week if we had one. The number 10 Baylor Bears and the number 1 Oklahoma State Aggies. OK State favored by 4.5 in this one, but watch out. This game has been a notorious trap for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They haven't won the Big 12 since 2014, but they played in the conference championship last year, also as number 1, while also losing to Colorado. However, Baylor is not as much of an out-of-nowhere pick. Their last Big 12 championship was when they played the Natty in 2021. These two played in Week 11 at Oklahoma State, the Cowboys winning 66-59. Okay, State favorite. I like the Cowboys to get revenge and make it to the Natty. Danny?
Give me, you know what? Give me the Bears in an upset. I believe Baylor will win this one.
Pig Bear?
Give me the Pokes getting the job done. Oklahoma State wins and stays unbeaten.
All right, now it's the ACC Championship. You want to talk about unpredictable? Go back 4 months and tell us that the conference championship will be between Virginia and Duke. We'd laugh in your face. But here we are, the number 20 Cavaliers against the number 12 Duke Blue Devils. Duke's last ACC championship was in 1972, as we mentioned earlier, the longest drought among active ACC members. Virginia's last title came in 2006. The Hoos are 1-1 in the championship game, their loss coming in their last appearance in 2012. Now, the interesting story here is not them, but Virginia Tech, as we mentioned earlier. Highest-ranked team to not make the conference championship in FBS history. Playing in Week 7 earlier this year, Duke won in Durham 28-13. The Blue Devils favored by 4.5, seeking their first 11-win season in over 50 years. Danny, who do you have?
Give me the Blue Devils to win this one. I think Duke is going to win this one close.
Pig Bear?
Give me Virginia winning their first ACC championship in a while here.
All right. To the SEC Championship, we go number 4 Florida against number 19 Tulane. Florida last won the SEC in 2016. They've appeared 10 times in the SEC title game, 7-3 in all of their appearances. Tulane, on the other hand, has made the SEC Championship a lone time, but they made the most of it. They won it in 2002, their last SEC Championship, and they won the Natty that season. Tulane has won 7 straight this season after starting 2-3. An incredible rally for the Green Wave to make it all the way here. Florida favored by 6. I think they'd be favored by a lot more. I like Florida big in this one. Danny?
Give me the Gators, but I'm going to tell you this. This is going to be one hell of a uniform game. It's going to look good, but nothing's going to keep the Green Wave from being splattered by the Gators.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Florida winning here. Easy.
All right. To the Sun Belt Championship we now go. Florida Atlantic now sitting at 10-2, taking on the Troy Trojans. FAU favored in this one. FAU seeking their 4th Sun Belt title. Their last one came in 2021. Troy's last title and their only title in the Sun Belt came in 2007. Now, Troy set a record much like Virginia Tech. They're the first team to make the conference championship without a winning record in the BCS era. We had Southeastern Louisiana get close last season at 7-5, making the conference championship. Now, certainly, I know quite a few people who are not happy about Troy making it here, namely out of the camp of Arkansas State, South Alabama, and even North Texas. They must be fuming to see Troy leapfrogging them. But Troy 6-2 in conference play. They've been pretty dominant after starting the season losing 4 straight. They went on a 6-game winning streak before losing their last 2 to end the year, including a Week 12 matchup, losing 40-18 in Boca to FAU. FAU favored by 5. I like FAU plus the points here. Danny?
Yeah, give me FAU to win this one and give Troy a losing season.
Pig Bear, who do you have?
Give me FAU winning this one also.
All right, to the Big Ten Championship game. Number 8, Wisconsin. Number 2, Penn State in Indy. Penn State's last Big Ten Championship came when they won the Natty in 2013. They're 1-1 all time in the conference title game. Wisconsin, on the other hand, hasn't won the Big Ten since 2010. They are 0-3 in the title game era. Wisconsin seeks their first Rose Bowl appearance since 1980, or first Rose Bowl win rather since 1987, the longest drought by a current Big Ten member. These two teams played in Week 7 at Wisconsin. Penn State ended up with a 30-27 overtime win. I believe Penn State would be favored by about 4.5 in this one. Give me the Nittany Lions to remain unbeaten and secure a spot in the Natty. Danny?
Give me the upset. Give me Wisconsin to win this one close.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Wisconsin winning.
Ooh.
All right, stay awake, soldier. We only have 3 more to go.
I know. Long
To-
weekend.
To the Southland we go. A rematch of a rivalry game that was played last week in Houston. Sam Houston won 41-38 to lock a spot here. The Sam Houston Bearcats taking on the Stephen F. Austin Lumberjacks for a rematch. Stephen F. Austin, the reigning Southland champions. They've won 4 SLC chips all time. Sam Houston's last one coming in 2006. They've won 2 all time. Both teams will be leaving for the WAC in 2024. Sam Houston favored by a solitary point. But give me the Bearcats to repeat. Give me the Bearcats to repeat and make it to the conference champion, or make a conference championship game win for the first time and the last time since 2006. Danny?
This one's gonna be a little bit tough, but give me Sam Houston to win this one close. I'm sure they're still angry from their little losing streak, and I'm sure they're happy to put a little dent into their last year's great season and just rub it into them.
Still, it could be worse. You could have lost the division to Hardin Simmons. Pig Bear, who do you have here?
Yeah, give me St. Vincent State won division also.
All right.
I heard that one earlier, but
WAC championship game. Hawaii, number 18, New Mexico State. For the first time in Vegas. The Southland titles in San Antonio, they move there as the WAC moves out to Vegas. New Mexico State favored by 6.5 in this one. They've won all 3 of their WAC titles in the last 10 seasons. In 2014, 2019, and 2021. They're looking for their 4th title in the conference. Hawaii has 4 WAC titles to their name, the most by any current member, with their last one coming in 2020. Both teams played each other for the 2021 WAC title, back when the title games were only in call. New Mexico State getting the win and a Fiesta Bowl appearance on top. New Mexico State trying to secure a 12th win and potentially a 3rd BCS berth. All right, New Mexico State is very much my pick here. Who do you have?
Give me New Mexico State to win this one, and I believe the Aggies will try to get themselves to a BCS Bowl.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, WAC championship, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, New Mexico State, yeah.
All right. Now, after all the tie-breaking rubbish, we get our Mountain West Championship. Number 9 TCU and number 13 Utah. Interesting that Utah is ranked below TCU, but Utah will be the home team. And I actually like Utah as the favorite here. TCU's last Mountain West title was in 2017. They're 2-1 in the championship game. Utah's last was in 2021. They're 2-1 in the championship game. The winner of this game will break a 3-way tie with BYU for the most in Mountain West history. Both teams are tied with BYU with 5 all-time. So the quest for history before they leave. Though I wouldn't expect that record to last long with Boise State breathing right down their necks. I think as I mentioned, I like Utah to return to the pedestal and get a win over TCU. Danny, who do you have in our final game here?
Give me the Horned Frogs for revenge. Give me TCU to win this one.
All right, Pig Bear, send us home. Who do you got?
Not so fast, my friend. Go Utes. Utah wins.
That will wrap up our slate. There's no game of the week since we'll be streaming all of these over the weekend. Thank you all for watching today's episode. We got an action-packed weekend coming your way. Stay tuned for the 2K Weekly podcast that follows that Sunday, as we'll talk about awards. And also stay tuned for the Heisman Trophy coming on December 10th. Thank you all for watching this episode, and so long from the 2K